Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Homebrew Studio. My name is Matthew A. Siebert. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so in the studio. I appreciate you coming out and joining me today. This is the Homebrew Studio, where we talk about, work together, create homebrew content for our favorite role-playing games. And with me, as always, is Logan, one of our Nerdsmith directors and the arbiter of the live stream. Logan, say hello to the nice people in chat. I see you're already enthusiastic. And the music is a little loud for me. If you can turn that down just a smidgen, Logan, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we are one of the newer programs on the Nerdsmith live stream network. No, not the newest anymore, as last night we just premiered two brand new programs. Final Rites, which is a fantastic D&D live stream featuring an all-female, all-tiefling cast. And Shenanigans, which was a podcast, is now going to be a live stream. If you have not seen those or didn't catch them yesterday, you can still see the VODs on this channel. They are a ton of fun. I definitely recommend going back and watching them if you get a moment. But we are here. We stream every Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on twitch.tv/wearenerdsmith. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to click the little heart button up there in the Twitch layout to give the channel a follow, so you know whenever we are going live with a live stream. We have several different programs, and the number keeps increasing that we are streaming, and they are all fantastic, a lot of fun. You definitely are missing out if you're not catching our streams, so go ahead and just click that little follow button. Now, today, usually over the last few episodes, this is our 4th episode. Woohoo! Yep, like Logan says, it kind of looks like a little purple heart. Usually I come up with some kind of theme that we sort of riff off of for the day's programming. Today I want to do something kind of special. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you guys into something I've been working on. It's a personal pet project of mine. And the reason I'm doing this is because next week we're starting up our subscription drive for nerdsmith.org. And I'm going to be running at least one game that I know of, possibly more. And what I'm wanting to do, if I can get this finished in time, is run a game in a custom homebrew setting that I've been working on for a while. And so what I'm going to be working on today is actually part of that homebrew setting. The setting itself is called Heaven's Half Acre, and it is a fantasy western setting. And so part of adapting a setting like that for a game like Dungeons and Dragons is updating a lot of the core materials that go into the character creation. One of those being backgrounds. And that's something that I'm going to be working on today, and I invite you all to join me, and we can talk about backgrounds and the role they play in character creation and how they can be important tools for helping our players connect with and form solid ideas about the characters that they are role-playing. Now, my experience is that most players will come into a role-playing game with kind of a set idea of the character they want to play, especially for more experienced RPG players and role players. They'll have a kind of an idea of the kind of character they want to play going in which case it's more a matter of adapting a background to fit their sort of idea. But for newer players, especially players who maybe aren't comfortable really with role-playing or don't have a whole lot of role-playing experience, backgrounds can be a great piece of help in aiding them to get a clearer picture of who their character is and specifically where their character comes from. No one's really born into the adventuring life. Most people have a background of something much more mundane or usual that forms the backstory of their character that they then go on to become adventurers or heroes. And so the background is really what that's all about, is filling in that portion of a character's story. So, as I said, for this game setting, it is a fantasy western, so it's bringing in a lot of those conceits, a lot of those archetypes you find in Western settings, and devising backgrounds based on those. So I've got a list here of different background concepts that I have, and I'm just going to start working through them, adding to them as I can. Got one here that's sort of the kind of a template that I've started working on, and have been filling in. So that is the convict. So this is someone who was in jail in the past, and you can read there in the description, maybe they were a criminal of some kind, maybe they were falsely accused and got put in jail for a crime they didn't commit. Every background in 5th edition has certain benefits that it provides to a character. Skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, languages, starting equipment. Usually not all of those things. It's usually a skill proficiency and tool proficiency, or skill proficiency and a language, and then basic starting equipment. Every background has a feature that gives players a sort of a special ability that they can call on, but also can help inform and flesh out the character depending on how they use it, and how you as a DM help them to bring that into the narrative. So for example, the feature I've come up with here for the convict is called Friend on the Inside. And the idea behind this is, while you were in prison, you made friends with individuals who have connections in the outside world. And now that you're in the outside world once again, you want to cash in on those connections. Basically say, I'm, a friend of a friend. I heard you can do this for me. And through the trading of favors, information, hard to come by items, you can get resources through a network that isn't, strictly speaking, legal. Now this opens up not only a benefit for the player in that it gives them an opportunity to acquire things that maybe normally they wouldn't be able to, but it opens up an opportunity for us as dungeon masters, as game masters, as storytellers, to flesh out this aspect of a character's backstory. Who is it that our player character made friends with? What kind of underhanded business is that character involved in? What sort of moral compromise is this character going to get involved in to call in, this favor, or to make this kind of connection? These are all threads that we can weave into plot lines, into story structures, or just into the basics of character building and building a more rounded picture of a character, which is what I think we all want when it comes to our player characters. We want them to fully inhabit a fleshed out character with, a 3-dimensional personality. So for the convict, going back up, skill proficiencies, gamble and intimidate. These are going to be a little different than the proficiencies in 5th edition, because again, it's tweaked for a Western setting. So I've introduced gambling as a skill proficiency for this. And I think those kind of make sense if you're a convict. You can intimidate people, you're kind of rough and tumble, and you played a lot of cards when you were in prison because there wasn't much else to do. Languages, I think it makes sense for someone who was in a prison, who was in contact with many different individuals from different walks of life, all thrown together in this kind of melting pot situation, that you would pick up an additional language that you maybe didn't know before. So I think that makes sense. And I haven't gone through with starting equipment, but I think I'll come back to that, because I'm going to move down here to suggested characteristics, which I haven't really filled in yet. But I have this little table here that is detailing what happened to you during your time in prison. And there are possibilities here, and I think I put a little disclaimer at the top of this document even. Tables are provided as a source of fun and inspiration. If a dice roll doesn't suit you, just pick something else or make something else up. These are just put out there to help people who need a little extra help getting into the roleplay, getting into the idea of creating a character, to help them get into the process a little more. If you're more comfortable with it and you just want to pick something off the list or come up with something that isn't on the list, I think that's fantastic. But these are just ideas I came up with that, based on the idea of a convict background, could have come up during their time in prison and could add additional conflict or complication to their personal storyline. So you found religion, vowed to turn your life around, you made an unexpected friend, you were a model prisoner, your romantic partner on the outside left you, ouch. You made an enemy in prison that still seeks revenge, or you escaped and are on the lam. I think those are all interesting ideas of how, taking that character from the prison setting and putting them back into the real world, you add interesting complications to their past and their backstory. Now, beyond that, personality traits, ideal bond, and there should be one after this called flaws. Forgive me while I copy paste. Also, the cursor goes weird on this, and I don't know why. But these are all other personality traits that are part of the background system for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And I haven't filled them in yet because I haven't spent a lot of time working on this. So we may come back and work on that in a minute. But let's, for a second, take a look at the next one, which is Gun for Hire. Now, I like this one because I think this one is sort of your classic mercenary with a Wild West kind of twist. This is the person who is good with their firearms, knows how to use them, and maybe isn't all that scrupulous about it so long as there's coin involved. So, if we're talking about this sort of archetypal character, we can say that throughout the territories, which is where this game setting is really set, is in an area called the Territories, which is sort of a Western frontier style setting. You can say throughout the territories, there are those. Just want to move a window here. There we go. Let's see here. There are those who trade blood for gold. Is that a good phrase? I kind of like it. But throughout the territories, there are those who trade blood for gold. I promise the setting isn't Italian, despite what the background music is telling you, but we'll press on. This would have been more appropriate for Final Rites yesterday when Jason was DMing. So, we're talking about a mercenary character. We're talking about someone who, for the right price, will go out and shoot a person dead. Or, maybe not. Maybe they're just the more of the, protect traveling caravans type. But regardless, they're the person you hire when you need protection or you need some kind of bloody job done. So, we can actually delineate that a bit more in our description here. We can say from cold-blooded contract killers, because the business aspect of a gun for hire is important. It's something I want to emphasize here. It's not just killing for fun, it's killing for profit, and maybe fun depending on your alignment. From cold-blooded contract killers to let's see, how would you describe this? Beyond just saying mercenary. Uh, This is the exciting part of Homebrew, where you just sort of think quietly to yourself for a moment. All right, I think that's a good way of phrasing that. So, the gun for hire takes jobs that suits them so long as their pay is in order. That's the important thing. So if we're talking about skill proficiencies for this type of mercenary character, I think negotiate, which is the term I use for persuasion, is definitely up in there. I think if you're negotiating your payment, your contract, that's definitely got to be something for a shrewd business person. Other skill proficiencies, we could go intimidate. That would be useful for a gun for hire. We could go, stealth for more of the contract killer route. But I don't see this really being like a stealthy type assassin-y. This is more, you call somebody out at noon and you know you're a better shot than them, and that's how you get your job done. Thank you, Logan, for some suggestions. Soldiers of Fortune, Dogs of War. Oh, I do like Soldiers of Fortune. That's a good one. I'm taking that. So negotiate, and let's also say, take a look at my list of skill proficiencies here, just to make sure there's not something I'm overlooking. Okay. So I'm seeing a couple good options here. One of them would be Notice, which is just my term for the perception skill. I think that's quite good if you're going to be someone who's very, very focused on a combat line of work, to be able to be aware of your surroundings. That's important. Also, read person, which for those of you familiar with older systems of D&D, no, it's now called Insight. I like read person better personally. But, so between those two options, I mean, read person is very good, again, for that very business-minded kind of thing, making sure that the person you're taking a job from isn't gonna underhand you by any means. I think I'm gonna go with read person on this, because again, it's about shrewd business dealings here, and I think those are skills that synergize pretty well in that regard. Now, in terms of tool proficiencies or languages, now could go with the tool proficiency in Gunsmith's tools, which is a new tool set that I've introduced for this setting. If you got people running around with guns, you gotta have gunsmiths. It would make sense that somebody who's a professional shootist is gonna have the tools necessary to maintain and make sure their weapons are in good repair, because that's your livelihood right there. We could go with an additional language, again, going into that sort of, businessy sort of sense. The more languages you speak, the more people you can communicate, the more jobs you can take. You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna leave it up to the player. So we're gonna change this to additional proficiencies. Say gunsmith's tools or one language of your choice. And we'll just give the player a little bit more agency in determining how they want to, I swear I can spell, and how they want to design their character. There's nothing wrong with that. So long as you have a general shape of what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with leaving choice in the hands of the player. And if anything, it makes that character more personal to them and, creates that bond of player and player character that you really want your players to invest in. When it comes to Gun for Hire, talk about features and suggested characteristics. So, what is a feature our Gun for Hire might have? Well, they might have something related to business negotiation, but then we already gave them proficiency in negotiation and read person, so that's kind of like doubling up. We want to do something else. Bad reputation, maybe? I don't know. How do we feel people cotton to Guns for Hire in this setting? Are they just the norm, or are they kind of the dishonorable sort? If you think about is it Ronin? The sort of sword for hire that were looked down on because they fought for pay instead of for the honor of it. Maybe that could be something in this setting? Hello, Action Crunch. Sup with you, my good man, and welcome to the stream. Let's see. May have to come back to that, because that's going to take some thinking on what a good feature for the Gun for Hire would be. So, local law is our next background. Local law, I think, kind of speaks for itself. Let's see. So you are an officiate. Meh. Being on live stream, for those of you who've never done it, makes typing 3 times harder, I swear. So you are an officiate of the law in your local hometown. And let's see. So you were an officiate of the law in your hometown. You may have been a straight shooter, playing by the book, or you may have been a crooked son of a gun. Either way, so you earned your spurs locking up Not drunk and disorderly necessarily, but come on, there's got to be a good phrase for this. Yeah, you make a good point, Logan. There's a sense of people doing what they need to do to get by. Your Ranger Spurs keeping the peace. So let's talk about what kind of proficiencies a former sheriff or former deputy, a former local law enforcement person might have about themselves. Well, intimidate might be a solid one. People have to respect your authority. Might be a knowledge skill involved. If you want to enforce the law, you have to know the law. Investigate. Investigate. I think that is just part and parcel of a lawkeeper's duties. You have to be able to investigate. So yeah, I think we'll do investigate and intimidate. I put them in alphabetical order because I'm just that way. Tool proficiencies or languages. I'm not sure if there's a particular tool proficiency you might have as a local law enforcement agent. Languages, yeah. Let's go with languages, one of your choice. If you're dealing with a lot of people, you're going to have to be able to speak the local tongue. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's move on from there to missionary. Now, missionary, these are the... There's always two brands to... Or there are multiple brands to everything, but when it comes to missionary... When it comes to missionaries, the things that come to my mind are you've got your, your firebrand, fire and brimstone type that are going to come through town and try and either lead a revival or condemn everybody in town and before they're at the door. On a mission to save souls. Oh, hello, Tessa. Maybe call it something like Power of the Badge for the intimidation. It's good to have you with us today, Tessa. And then there's the kind that are more... I don't know how to describe it. Sort of soft-spoken, who have these big ideas about the kind of things they're going to do. The sort of Book of Mormon type missionaries who have these big grand ideas about the things they're going to do and then get confronted with reality and find their ideals maybe are a little out of place. But let's talk about missionary as a background. That's all right, Tessa. Pay attention to the road, not the stream. So, for a missionary, let's see here. What sort of narrative drive do we want to give to this? Because there's a prevailing religion in this setting, which is the Church of Good Saint Alvin. And so, as a missionary of Good Saint Alvin going out into the territories to convert the sinners and bring the wayward sheep back via the road to repentance. You were... So you are trained to put your faith in the grace of good Saint Alvin. By that grace you believe in your heart of hearts that all souls can be saved from wickedness and sin. And so you carry... Whoops. The good saint's word. Whoops. Across the burning sands. Intent on finding and rescuing those who've gone astray. So, a bit of a religious zealot, but if you play it right, and it can be done, you don't have to be a dick about it. So, something as a DM to also work with your players. If your player is playing a super religious type of character, make sure you're working with them to kind of, just soften the edges just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's going to make everybody probably more comfortable. So let's talk about skill proficiencies of a missionary. Well, I think first and foremost, religion. You're not much of a missionary if you don't know much about religion. And secondly, I think it's got to be your oratory ability. If you're going to go out and preach to the masses, you've got to be able to preach. And here is where we run into a conundrum. Because would we say this is covered under a persuasion type of ability or a performance type of ability? I'm going to err towards performance. Because when it comes to, I think, sermons, religious type speeches, it's less about logical persuasion and more about emotional persuasion. So we're going to lean into that and say that this is more of a performance than a persuasion type of skill set. So we're going to add perform in there. And maybe just me, but the music is no more. Nada más. There it goes. Sorry about that. We've been having some problems with the music looping over the last few days. So, tool proficiencies. Now, languages. Again, languages would be important if you're a missionary. Other than that, what kind of tools might a missionary be skilled with? Excuse me. I think we're past the age where you had monks who were adept really with sort of brewing alcohol. It isn't that kind of age anymore, unfortunately. I think a lot more people would be enthusiastic about religion if booze was involved with it more heavily, but that's just my opinion. So, yeah, I can't really think of any sort of tools necessarily that a missionary is going to be adept with. So we're just going to go back to one language of your choice. And it does seem like I'm falling back on that a lot, but when we get to some of the later ones, there will actually be tool proficiencies that are relevant. So let's move on to the Pioneer. Now the Pioneer, this is an interesting one because I've got Pioneer, and a little later down on the list I've got Settler. And those are two very different things in my mind. A settler is someone who's looking for a piece of land that they can claim and set up a little house and a farmstead, and that's theirs. A pioneer is an explorer. Pioneer is somebody who wants to go out there and find things that have never been found, back in the shoe shop on the left. And so pioneer is about embracing that kind of daring spirit. So we're talking about describing a pioneer. We can say, so, pioneer, you grew up feeling confined by the circumstances that you found yourself in. You always knew that your destiny lay out there, wherever the there is, beyond the horizon, and now you travel to discover the places you could only ever dream about. It's that explorative spirit. So, skill proficiencies, I think. Let's see, there's several that could go well here. If you're a pioneer, you need good survival skills. So we could go with something survival-oriented. You probably need to be good at riding an animal. So something in that vein could be very good. You probably want to have a good bit of nature about the geography, the lay of the land. So those are kind of our three strong options, I think. Either survival, being able to ride and handle animals, or having knowledge. I think we're definitely going to go with the knowledge skill. So, the second world, for those who are curious, is the name of sort of the current age of the world. This is, if you notice any references to the old world or something like that, this is a setting that takes place post a massive magical apocalypse. And so the world is having to rebuild itself. And so the current age is known as the second world. So I think you're going to have to be very familiar with the sort of layout and the geography of how things, or at least of what's known of the second world thus far, if you're going to go out there and explore the as to fore unknown. And beyond that, I think we're going to go with hunt. Hunt is a skill that I've kind of broken off from survival as a 5th edition skill and made it its own skill. So I think being able to hunt, to provide for yourself while you're pioneering, and knowing where it is you're going in the first place. Those are both things you need if you're going to be a pioneer. Zach, you are one step ahead of me. Cartographer's Tools is exactly what I was thinking when it comes to tool proficiencies, and it's one of the ones I have never seen anyone use yet in 5th edition. In my own personal games, in the streams I've watched, the podcasts I've listened to, I have never seen anyone have a proficiency in cartographer's tools. And map making is such an important profession. So definitely cartographer's tools. You're a pioneer, you're an explorer, you're making maps, goddammit. Because if you don't, no one's going to know where the thing you found is. And we'll take languages off of there. Okay. The next one's kind of a fun one. Rabble Rouser. Excuse me just a moment. Rabble Rouser. And this might be the last one we work on today because it is about a quarter to the hour. So let's think about Rabble Rouser here. Rabble Rouser is, I'm thinking like the town drunk, the kind of person who gets into bar fights for fun, just the sort of personality that doesn't fit well into a very ordered sort of settlement or community. They're always very boisterous and very big and loud, and so Rabble Rouser. Actually, I might skip that one and go to Rodeo Rider, because Rodeo Rider's fun. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A Rodeo Rider. You're an entertainer. So, Rodeo Rider, in terms of skill proficiencies, I think immediately we've got to have Handle Animal and Ride Animal, which are two separate skills. I know they're combined for 5th edition normally. I've split them because I think that they are worthy of being separate, separate disciplines to specialize in, especially in a Western setting where being able to ride a horse and do it well is such an important part of your skill set. So I think those two skills, definitely. If you're a rodeo rider, you got to know how to treat animals, how to take care of them. You also got to know how to ride them without falling on your butt. When it comes to tool proficiencies, let's see. I don't know that there's really a set of tools related to caring for animals. I'm thinking like, is it a farrier? Is that the profession that like makes horseshoes and cleans out their hooves? Let me just check this really quick. Yeah, farrier is somebody who trims and chews a horse's hooves. That might be important for a rodeo rider to know how to do. I hadn't thought about including that as a tool set. But in a setting where horses and horse-type mounts are of such importance, that would make sense. What are some other options for a rodeo rider in terms of tool proficiencies? Land vehicles? Well, land vehicles might make sense if you're driving a wagon. I see this kind of being like a traveling rodeo, so yeah, maybe you've got wagons you're rolling around the place with. Just checking the player's handbook here. I apologize. See what other kinds of artisan tools we have as possibilities. Yeah, I'm not seeing much if I'm being honest. I'm thinking maybe a gaming set? If we think about this as like a traveling performance show, after they get paid, everyone plays a game of cards. Maybe you don't walk out with as much as you had when you started. You can go with a musical instrument if you're a multi-threat sort of entertainer who does different things. Disguise kit, maybe, if you're one of the rodeo clowns. I think I'm going to, for the moment at least, I'm going to put farrier supplies in here. And give some hard thought about whether or not I want to include that. Because it seems to me that's going to be an important part of just about every community, is somebody who can take care of the horses. Anyway, that's an idea for now. And as I talked about last week, the great thing about Homebrew is you can always go back and iterate and change things and, refine your ideas as you go. So it is 10 to the hour, so I'm going to start wrapping things up a little bit. I want to thank you, everyone who came out and hung out with me today in the Homebrew studio. We will be back again next week, I believe. Next Tuesday, the 16th, is going to be the start of our nerdsmith.org subdrive. It's very exciting. I will actually be DMing, as I found out last night. I'm going to be DMing Tuesday the 16th during the day. I do not know who my players are yet. I'm very eager to find that out. And we're going to be doing a number of streamed games for the whole 2 weeks between the 16th and the 30th. To celebrate our subdrive and trying to get more people to subscribe over at nerdsmith.org. We have all kinds of fun bonuses planned for people who subscribe during that time. So definitely come back next week and check us out while the subdrive is going on. And let me see, what else? Logan, you can... Logan, you've inadvertently stumbled upon one of the feats I've created for this setting. Logan, can you confirm, is there going to be a Countless Heroes tonight? They're usually scheduled. I just want to make sure. Yes, there is Countless Heroes tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That is going to be just about an hour from now. So go grab yourself some dinner and come back for what we call the soap opera of D&D streams. It has fun, romance, mystery, gay squealing, everything you could possibly want from your soap opera. Again, that's going to be at 7 o'clock on this very channel. And then, yeah, next week, Subdrive. Very excited. Make sure you tune in for that. Before we go, I do need to mention our sponsor, World Anvil. World Anvil is a fantastic world creation website software suite. Logan has tried them all, and he says they are the most robust of any, and I take his word for it. I've used World Anvil for hosting our creations that we come up with on this stream. You can go look for us. The world name on World Anvil is Homebrew Studiopolis. And if you look that up, you'll be able to see the creations we've made on previous shows, including our mechanical giant rats, Dr. Big Bad, and some others that you can go and enjoy and peruse. But World Anvil is a fantastic sponsor, and yeah, go check it out. You can get a free membership with them, which opens up all kinds of features and benefits. If you want a few extra, extra cherries on top, there are paid subscriptions as well. And other than that, we are also, I don't know if we're officially sponsored by Die Hard Dice on this show or not. I know the network is. And we have a coupon code for Die Hard Dice. They are the makers of exceptionally high-quality custom metal dice. They sell metal and polymer dice. Their metal dice are exclusive to them. No one else sells their designs, and they are gorgeous. Check them out at dieharddice.com. And if you make your first or next purchase there, you can use the coupon code HOMEBREW to save 15% off your order. It only works one time, but that code is HOMEBREW, and you save 15% off your order. I think that is everything I need to... Oh, I am officially sponsored. Hooray! I think that is everything I need to cover for today. So once again, I will thank everybody for coming, hanging out with me for the last hour. You guys make this a whole lot of fun. And next week, we will cover something else. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out at some point before then. But for now, that is all. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and have a great week.